Good morning. This past Saturday, I attended a full day field training exercise event. There was about 15 guys that were there, and everyone was split into two teams. One team was the attacking force, and the other team was the defending force. I was on the defending force, Op 4. Our job was to patrol out into the environment, find a suitable location to set up a patrol base, to set up observation posts, or OPs, surrounding that patrol base, and basically do our best to not get discovered for the entirety of the event. We also sent out reconnaissance teams to the surrounding area to try to locate or figure out where the enemy was coming from. Now, this event was very enjoyable and was a great chance to build some friendships and skills with some like-minded guys. Now, to keep everyone safe, we had a few rules. Absolutely no live ammunition was allowed anywhere on the property. And all of our weapons, we rendered them inoperable by removing the bolts. We taped up our muzzles with blue tape, and all of our magazines, we removed the followers. So it is impossible to load ammunition into your weapon. So because we weren't running blanks for this event, simulation of force, or basically shooting somebody, was just simulated through just pointing your weapon at them and just saying bang, bang. Now, if you were taking a very far shot, you would zoom in on your camera and just take a photo of them. And that would be basically the proof that you had killed them. Identifying teams was done in the same style and fashion as the whole Ukraine-Russian conflict, which is just slapping some colored duct tape on your arm for whatever color your team is. Not the best for concealment, but it works when everyone's wearing mixed camouflage, or some people are wearing solid colors and stuff, and just the best way to not get people mixed up. So how did the event go? Well, as I mentioned, I was on the defending team, or Op 4. At about 4 o'clock in the morning, as the moon was rising, we briefed about our comms, we passed out maps, and our procedures, everything for the day. We inspected our weapons to make sure everybody was safe, and we geared up and we headed out. Now, this property we were at is quite large, with lots of rolling hills, ridges, valleys, draws, very interesting terrain. You've got some very high ground and you've got some low ground also, and a good mix of open grass fields and forests. We patrolled into the location under the cover of darkness at about 5 o'clock in the morning. Most of us were carrying our full gear with chest rig or plate carrier or rifle and our backpack or ruck. Some guys had helmets and night vision, but a lot of us didn't. Now, our ruck into the property was a couple miles. I can't say for sure, but maybe about 3.5 miles. During this ruck in, I actually surprised myself with my level of fitness. I was expecting to get very tired, my shoulders to get very sore, and I was expecting to really just struggle to make it. But actually, at no point did I really feel tired. Sure, my feet got a little sore, but I felt like I could have gone a lot farther. So I guess that just goes to show that your training pays off. If you go running, you go rucking, you lift weights, I guess your level of fitness maybe, or especially cardio, will rise faster than you expect. Now, don't get me wrong, walking for miles with all that gear is always gonna suck. I guess it's just confidence boosting that I'm already seeing results from my training. One thing I gotta say is I thought I'd be stumbling around in the dark a lot, but it actually wasn't too bad to navigate in the dark. Now, that being said, we were either in open fields or in already established trails. So if I had to navigate straight through the woods in the dark, I'm sure that'd be a lot more challenging, especially without lights, obviously, as we had strict light discipline. The enemy team was infilling around the same time as us, and we didn't know exactly how fast they would get to our location or where they'd be. We did our best to keep light and noise down to a minimum. Now, navigating might not have been too difficult, but if I was fighting in the dark, I definitely would want night vision. Once we got to the pre-selected patrol base location, we began to set up. Now, we spread out some camo nettings and stuff. We got our comms up and running. One guy there is pretty experienced with some comms, and he got his antenna up in the trees. We began to set our frequencies and everything because we weren't too worried about comms on the way in because we weren't talking too much. As the guys began to push out and set up their observation posts as kind of an early warning system in case that one of our enemy came across or is heading down a direction, you could give an early warning back to the patrol base by radio. And as this was happening, I got put on the first reconnaissance element. I think it was about 6:30 when the assistant team leader and I set out on the first patrol. Now, I gotta say, recon can be a lot of fun, but it also can be really boring. We had a great time. We circled around the patrol base location by about half a click. And unfortunately, we didn't see anything. Now, at one point, we thought we might have heard some of the enemy team pretty far down through the woods. I think some of the wind was carrying their footsteps. We also heard a lot of crows, and squirrels were making a lot of chatter. After I got back from that recon patrol at about 10 o'clock, I basically rested for a little bit, and then I went out to an observation post to relieve a guy. Now, when this guy out in this observation post had been radioing back, trying to reach us on the radio, but hasn't been answering our calls. So as I get out there, I come up and crawl up behind him. He's under a camo net, and he says, hey man, what's going on? Why haven't you guys been talking to me? And well, I basically, there's some kind of comms mix-up where some of us were on the wrong frequencies for our transmit and receive. And so, I got down and I told him that there was something wrong with our comms, and I brought him the right frequencies. And he told me that the reason he was trying to reach us is because he had seen about 600 meters across a field, he had seen the enemy team. Now there's two dudes on the opposing team, Blue 4, and he had seen them crossing this field and making a big loop around. And they were headed straight for our patrol base. Now somehow they must have missed it because they looped around and then they came past it, but we think they got maybe within 50 to 100 meters of our patrol base. Now, I didn't think his location was that camouflaged because it was just a bean field that was dry, and he was just laying under kind of a brown colored camo netting just in the middle of that field. So, from afar you could maybe silhouette yourself or you maybe see that, but apparently they looped right behind him by like 25, 50 meters, something like that. And they did not even spot him, which is pretty insane. So you can understand how, he's trying to reach us over the radio to let us know that there's some guys headed straight for our patrol base, and the frustration there of not having the comms go through, and just the anticipation of these guys could see him at any minute. Now, I had him punch in the frequencies that I had on my radio, and right as we were doing that, we heard the patrol base come over saying that they were switching frequencies again. Now we were both stuck where we could hear the patrol base talking, but we couldn't transmit back. So I decided to take his spot on the observation post and just stay there while he headed back to the patrol base, and then he was gonna get me back the right frequencies. Before he left, we both made sure that we were both on the same frequency and we could talk to each other. So he heads back and I'm just laying there.
All right. So right now I'm on OP watch duty, which stands for observation post. The guy who I just relieved saw the enemy team. He saw a couple members of them cross over about 500 yards out in a field. And they even circled around right behind him on the fence line. So the enemy is looking for us. They haven't found us yet. It's already 11 o'clock, 11:30.
Now I'm laying there for 30 minutes to an hour. So I radio him and, I don't get any answers back. So then I wait another 20 minutes and I do the same thing, nothing. So now I start to wonder what's going on, and then I hear some voices coming down from towards the patrol base. So I'm wondering, is this our guys, or, were they ambushed? Did those guys who came around before, did they come and attack the patrol base? And, is everyone captured, killed, surrendered, or whatever? You gotta understand something. When you're laying down in the woods for a while, or in a situation like this where it's somewhat high stress, your mind starts to play tricks on you, and you start to, second guess yourself or wonder what's going on. And so I laid there for, an hour and a half maybe, and then I decided to head back and find out what's going on. And at the very least, just to get my radio programmed with the correct frequencies. So I start heading back towards the patrol base through a different route. And I'm moving slowly through the brush and trying to see what's going on ahead of me. And as I come up, to where I believe the patrol base was, I still couldn't see anything. And that surprised me because, when I was at the patrol base with our backpacks and rucks and camo netting strung up and stuff, it seemed pretty obvious, like you could see it from a little bit of a distance, even though it was in the forest. And so as I'm coming up to the location, I can't see anything. And I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty hidden. We did a pretty good job of hiding our patrol base. I'm coming up and I'm not quite sure. And then I think I see something. And then I see two dudes with, my team's orange armbands on. And they're just sitting there. And so, I stop and I'm watching, trying to see what's going on. I see some movement around them. So I'm like, is everything fine? Or are these two dudes, are they captured now? And they're just sitting there. I'm thinking maybe it's an ambush, maybe the enemy team came and killed the guys there or captured them. And then now they're waiting for people to come back from the observation posts or the recon patrols, and then they're gonna ambush those guys. So I come up even closer and then I see them looking at me, and they're just looking at me, they're not saying anything. I look around and then I see some other guys walking around in the orange, and I'm like, okay, everything's fine, I'm good. So I come out of the brush. When you're in a high stress situation like that, especially in the woods, it just goes to show how it can be very unnerving. And in a combat environment, you can just expect how much more those nerves must be, right? Because this is just a war game. We're just LARPing. We're just having fun. And even then, your mind plays tricks on you and you start to second guess yourself. You can just imagine how much, more when you're actually in a trench, or, you've got actual bad guys hunting you down, and it'd be harder to discern what's really going on. I guess they call it the fog of war, right? So at this point, we hit about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or 1400, and the enemy team has still not really seen anything of us. We had seen them here and there and heard them a little bit, but they had so far, managed to not find our patrol base or our location. Now, we had some comms frequencies that were set up between the two teams so that if there was an emergency or we needed to stop for some reason, we could talk to one another. And basically, the other team got on the radio at about 2 o'clock, and they told us that, some of their guys needed to leave early. They were getting kind of tired, and they felt like they had covered a lot of the map and not seen or heard anything of us. So we were kind of bummed out by that some of the guys were tired and wanted to leave early. We were really wanting some action. We were wanting some, to get in a firefight. So I told a few of the guys, I said, hey, why don't we just take our chest rigs and our rifles and let's move really fast and try to get down there and find them and set up some kind of ambush or something, right? Because we were thirsty for action. So we're about to head out and do that, and one of our guys gets on the inner team comms and he says, hey, we have some more guys that are coming down towards you, and they're gonna try to make it out to the exfil or ambush you or whatever. And just giving them some intel, basically telling them to expect a firefight, to make them a little bit more vigilant and to make it more of a challenge. And the opposing force leader, he called back on the radio and he said, we have 2 guys that are unable to operate any longer. So apparently some of the guys were, pretty pooped out from rucking so many miles that day trying to track us down and find us in this property that they were just done. They just couldn't take any more. So our leaders just decided to stop the exercise a couple hours early. And so that was a little disappointing, but all in all, we had a lot of fun and we had a great time, building our teams and learning some skills and practicing some different stuff. So we never did get into that firefight that I was hoping we'd get into, that battle. Probably would have died right away, but I don't care. It's fun, I used to do a lot of airsoft as a kid, and I love that stuff, but next time. So what are some takeaways that I had from the event? Well, as far as our team's goal, our objective of avoiding detection by the enemy team and setting up our observation posts and doing our recon patrols and all that and just avoiding being captured, we killed it. We knocked it out of the park. But at the same time, maybe some things could have been changed. The enemy team had a little bit too much search area, so it was hard for them to cover the ground like they wanted to, and that ultimately ended up for them not being able to even spot us at all. We had great teamwork and we really came together and had an awesome time out there. Cracking jokes, just being dudes in the woods. It was amazing. The other thing that I mentioned before is our patrol base was very hidden. I did not realize how easy it is to hide something out in the woods in the brush, but you can have a whole 5 to 10 dudes just like around in a circle and with all their gear and stuff and out in the woods, and you can't even find it, just walking within 25 meters of it. And that was also evident by one of the enemy team's recon patrols going right by, and they didn't see anything. For next time, there's a couple things, of course, we could work on. One thing is our comms, we kept getting our frequencies mixed up and scrambled, and we were having problems communicating with each other. Now, it didn't end too badly because we never actually got into a really, spicy situation where we had to maintain comms and let everyone know what was going on. But it's definitely something to work on next time. We also got a little lax on our security. At some points we were just kind of sitting in the patrol base because they hadn't found us, and it's been hours and hours, and we're kind of just sitting around eating, laughing, joking, and sometimes our rifles were like out of arm's reach and stuff like that. We got a little loud with our voice tone, and all that stuff is fine, but if you get complacent, and then eventually it'll catch up to you. But the moral of the story, guys, is you need to get outside. I promise, near you there are some guys who are into protecting their family, they're into fitness, they are into guns, and they are into training. And you need to find those guys, whether it's through social media or through in-person meetups. You need to find these guys, and you need to get out into the woods and into the fields, and you need to do stuff with them. If not for anything, but just to have fun. But the other thing I want to say is that LARPing is fun, but fitness will save your life. You can't always have your rifle with you. You can't always have your ruck with you. You're not always going to have your perfect pocket dump EDC with you, but you will always have your fitness with you. So I don't care where you live, I don't care what kind of laws there are in your country or your state or your city, you should get outside and go for runs. You should go for rucks. You should go hiking. You should go to the gym, because fitness is the multi-tool that will save your life and that you always have with you. Well guys, I didn't capture as much footage from the day as I had wanted to, but I promise next time I will film a lot more of the event, and it will be a lot more spicy. Thanks for watching, guys. Now go train and become a defender.